Hey y'all, it's your legal bestie, attorney Simone. And this is another episode of Girl, Is That Legal? And today we've got a few things on the docket, y'all. Now, on today's docket, we've got Kim Kardashian implies she may be going to law school. She's actually taken the bar a few times already, or the baby bar. We'll get into that. We're going to talk about how Blac Chyna has decided no prenup for her. The state of New York actually buys Damon Dash's interest in Rock Nation or Rockefeller. Also, the family of Botham Jean wins $100 million jury verdict. I've been getting a lot of questions about that. That case was from Dallas, Texas, where I'm originally from and where I also practice. And last but certainly not least, y'all, the attorney who filed the 120 lawsuits against Diddy, Tony Busby, has been sued for assault. So let's get into it. Hey, y'all. Yes. Now, sorry, I'm as tired as I look, and I'm not home. I'm babysitting some kids. So that's why I had to be a little bit late. I had to make sure everybody was asleep, tucked all in within their bedtime. Now, let's go ahead and let's get started. Oh, yes. Remember, you can go to my website, which is SimoneRedwine.com. If you'd like to schedule a consultation with me, here we are, SimoneRedwine.com. Consultations start at just $149. I do those on if you need a background check into someone in your world. It could be a friend's boyfriend, yours, whatever. I also do them for legal strategy. If you or your family member are facing any legal challenges, I even help people who are trying to bring their own small claims lawsuit, where I review paperwork, approve filings, I give strategy, and even edit documents as needed. So we have a good little old time. Thanks for joining your legal bestie. Now, first up on this docket, here we are. Kim Kardashian, bless her little heart. Bless her little heart. The reason I say bless her little heart is she's been trying for a while. So many know, let's share it here. Many know that Kim's father, Rob Kardashian, was a famous attorney that helped helped get the not guilty verdict for O.J. Simpson. Now, Kim has for years talked about wanting to go to law school. Generally, the problem with that, though, for someone like Kim is Kim never went to college. So generally, you have to actually go to college to go to law school. However, in the state of California, that is the only state in the United States where you don't actually have to go to college or law school to be a lawyer. In fact, there's a ton of lawyers, people who've passed the bar, that are actually inmates. And the bar exam for the state of California is actually administered, it's to my understanding, on prison campuses. So yeah. You don't have to actually go to law school in the state of California. Now, you do have to do like some apprentice work, which she's already done. Part of her challenge is she's taken what's called the baby bar, which is if you didn't go to law school, it's a test that they instruct you to take beforehand. You have to pass it in order for you, and then sit for the regular bar exam. Now, interestingly, I went to Cornell Law School. There was a guy in my class who the summer after our first year of law school, so there's 3 summers in law school. Generally, after your first summer, people will study abroad, do something fun, or you go work for a law firm. Law firms pay really well. The annual starting salary, if you graduate from a school like Cornell, is $180,000. And I can't remember what that breaks down to weekly, but it's about $4,000 a week, right? As a summer intern, you get paid $4,000 a week. Or if you're not able to get an internship, this guy at my school didn't get the internship. So he was like, hey, I'm from California. I'm going to be useful, and I'm going to just take the bar this summer. So after just his first year of law school, that boy took and passed the California bar. So come after law school graduation, when most everyone else is studying for the bar, but also he was chilling. He was traveling. He was doing good. But more importantly, when it came time to do interviews, and people were like, what'd you do last summer? And people were like, oh, I went to Greece. Oh, I went to Paris. Now, for me, I was like, oh, I worked on death penalty cases, and I got cases overturned by the United States Supreme Court, Miller L. But he was like, I passed the bar. People were like, what? He was like, I passed the bar. So that's a tip for anybody who actually was going to law school, who thinks you want to practice in California. Hey, if you don't have no job the summer after your first year of law school, go ahead and sit for the bar. So Kim Kardashian is doing it now. My question for you is, would you guys care if your attorney didn't go to law school? I mean, law school is really expensive. And I have to say, I have never had more. It was relatively useless. The reason I say law school is relatively useless is because it's the only type of schooling I ever got where at the end of the schooling, you can't actually open your own practice and do anything because you don't know anything. Many people don't realize in law school, they don't teach you the law of the state. So, for example, I went to law school in New York State. They don't teach you that law. They teach you the theory behind the laws of all states because they think like, oh, well, we don't know where our students are going to go, and that you're supposed to study for that state bar to know the specifics. So I say, hey, if Kim can pass it, if anyone else who's never actually gone to law school can pass the bar, which is the stuff that is specific to being a good lawyer in your state, more power to them. So I applaud Kim. Kitty said, is my life on the line? Yeah, I would care too. Yeah, I'm saying more power to the people. They can get that degree. But yeah, me, I think I like the discipline of someone sitting down and saying, okay, I'm gonna get this taught. They said, no, I wouldn't care so long as they knew what they were doing. California is one of the hardest bars to pass. So I'm glad you said that. So here's the tea. Here's the legal tea on that, y'all. It's not actually that hard. The problem is with California. Now, don't get me wrong. People who've passed California will tell you how hard it is. But the issue with California is when you look at the bar pass rate for California versus other states, their pass rate is so much lower because they don't make people go to law school. If you take out all the convicts, all the people who never went to law school, and you just evaluated the numbers of California people who sit for the bar who actually went to law school, the pass rate is comparable to Texas and New York and other states. Go figure. So for my friends who were studying for California, I always tell them, hey, don't get thrown off by the numbers because it's probably just a bunch of the convicts that have nothing. Literally, convicts have nothing to do. They will sit around and study and take that thing and then try to represent themselves in court. Nothing wrong with that. That's their business. All right, next up on the docket. Miss Black Chyna. Miss Black Chyna is engaged to a man named Derek Milano, who is a music producer, and says, they're not getting a prenup because we're not getting divorced. Here's the clip.
Prenup?
Well, you know what? I'm not against it. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, because she has a lot of stuff already. You know what I'm saying? She got her cars, like that's hers. She got her Sprinter, that's hers. She has her house, that's hers. I have my stuff, that's mine. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not one of those people like, oh, you need to do one. But
it's a contract, and you guys are business people.
You never brought it up.
Well, listen,
and we ain't.
Yeah.
And we ain't, period.
That's it.
Yeah.
It won't be a prenup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because I feel like it's one of those things
we're not getting divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's it.
I love that thought process. Because marriage is
you're
forever.
done. You're
And
done.
people
He's done. I'm done.
People take marriage and they don't really, like you said, they make a joke about it. Well,
Yep. So that's her thing. No prenup because we're not getting divorced. That is absolutely the dumbest logic that you can have. It's not good logic. I say if you would get a will for the same reason you would get a will, you should get a prenup. And here's why. If you die without a will, your stuff gets distributed, just not the way that you would intend for it. Because the state gets to determine who gets what and how much. Same thing with the divorce without a prenup. The state gets to determine who gets what and how much. So if you want to have some say in how your wealth will be distributed, even if it's just to say, hey, we're going to split everything down the line 50-50, then that's what a prenup can simply state and do. Now, I have heard a lot of women say, oh no, if I make less than him, I don't want a prenup. I can understand why many people would feel that way, or even men too. Men are like, I don't want to get a prenup because I make less than her and she's doing better. I get that. But here's the thing. Prenups don't have to be unfair. In fact, Michael Strahan, who used to be with Nicole Murphy and is on, Good Morning America, etc., the former football player, his prenup actually ended up giving his ex-wife more than she would have gotten without it. Also, for me, the prenup that I'm going to have is going to, for example, standardize what's going to happen with my children if we are to divorce. So for example, if my kids were in private school, you're going to continue paying for the private school. And I want him to pay for all the private school. If my kid, you're going to pay for the therapy for my kids if we break up. It'll have a provision that says if there was cheating, this is how it's going to go. Maybe if there's cheating, we're not splitting it 50-50. If it's cheating, the person who cheats got to give up 70-30. I say that to say a prenup is a contract. A contract can be whatever you want. But most importantly, you just remember the person you divorce is never the person that you married. So you are having a crapshoot if you say, oh, I'm not going to get divorced. Because here's the thing, Chyna, if you get divorced, it's only because he has become something so far and so different from who you signed up to be with that you're like, oh, hell no. This is not what I agreed to, and I'm out of here. So I do hear then why get married? What's hers is hers, and what's yours is yours. Do common law then. You can. I like getting married because I think it's great for kids. I think it like I grew up with married parents. A lot of my self-confidence and stuff came from I didn't have abandonment issues. I didn't have different things like that because my parents were committed to each other, as well as me. Yeah. Oh yeah. And she has children. Ooh, that's a great point, Nazra. When you have kids, let me tell you, I cannot tell you how many times I have seen cases where the mother is saving up and has this house. The man moves in during the marriage, blah, blah, blah happens. And because during the marriage, even though she had the house before, because during the marriage, he helped fix the house. They used joint money to pay the mortgage. She's got to give a portion of this house to the man, or is forced to sell the house, a house that she would have loved to pay off and leave for her children. So yeah, when you have kids, you absolutely have to think about, are you willing to give some of your children's assets to this man, this stranger, or this woman who will become a stranger if things don't work out? Hit that like button, guys. Nope, we get in a new house, we get married. I definitely think a discussion needs to be had. But I just think, but statistics also show that there is no increased likelihood of divorce due to prenups. It's actually the opposite. If you want to increase the likelihood you're going to stay married, have a prenup. Pull it up. That's literally what the stats show. If you want to increase the chance of actually staying married, get a prenup. Go figure. All right, next up on the docket, we've got this interesting Kansas City case. So it says Jay-Z's Team Rock sues Kansas City Police Department over alleged corruption and misconduct. Now, when I first read that, I was like, did they do something to Jay-Z? What exactly happened? But no, this actually sounds like the type of case that's for the common good. Specifically, Team Rock it seems like Team Rock is acting almost as a nonprofit in this entity, kind of like how the AFL-CIO, what is it? AFL-CIO. Those entities will take on like human rights issues that are legal related. So it says Team Rock is suing the Kansas City Police Department for failing to produce documents related to allegations of police corruption and misconduct. On November 19th, Team Rock and the Midwest Innocence Project filed a lawsuit after their request for public records from the Kansas City Police Department and local government was ignored. The documents in question are said to involve a long-standing pattern of police misconduct, which the lawsuit claims the city and police department have intentionally withheld. Interestingly, my law school classmate, Quentin Lucas, who is Black, is the Kansas City mayor. This ain't his fault. This ain't his fault. It says the legal filing argues that the Kansas City PD has provided zero documents related to complaints or investigations, while instead charging over $2,200 for unrelated materials in an apparent attempt to discourage the request. The lawsuit also highlights the severe impact on Kansas City residents, including allegations of wrongful convictions, police brutality, and even deaths. Team Rock's managing director has stated, we have to set a precedent that transparency and accountability are non-negotiable. Getting access to those materials is critical to exposing the corruption, reforming local policies, and helping the local community heal. So I thought that it's fantastic that they took this up. So the gist of it is that what Team Rock it sets out to do is it's effectively like I said, like a nonprofit. It's the philanthropic and social justice arm of what Rock Nation does. So specifically, it says that their job or their goal is to, it says, rather than promoting a culture of transparency and accountability, it says the Kansas City Police Department has a long history of turning a blind eye and even covering up abuse and corruption. So Team Rock has also basically, they've combined and they work with the Midwest Innocent Project, among others, to basically take on social justice projects. So if you or a loved one ever has a social justice issue where you feel like, okay, we need a lawyer, we need somebody to look into this, Team Rock may be a great place to start. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Always a lady. Thank you for all the info you provide. Very helpful. Kansas. Oh, your question is this Missouri or Kansas? It's the Kansas City Police Department. And I may have said that wrong. I always get them confused. But this is the Kansas City Police Department. So effectively, what they're trying to do, Team Rock is trying to do, is force them to turn over the data. Once that data is turned over, then you can get change. Because many people forget that after in Ferguson, Missouri, that was part of how they were able to effectuate change in Ferguson, Missouri, with the police department and otherwise, was because they were able to first pull the data to show the number of stop and frisk, the number of illegal police stops that were taking place, and those kinds of things. And thank you so much for that super chat. Those things are what they were able to pull in order to get assistance. So next on the docket, y'all, Damon Dash. He just can't get right. And I don't feel sorry for him anymore. 50 Cent be trolling him, but he deserves to be trolled because he just can't get right. So according to gossip in the city, New York State is the new owner of Damon Dash's 1/3 share of Rockefeller Records. That's after they bid $1 million at a federal auction. So many people don't realize at federal auctions, anybody can bid, but they'll basically have a minimum bid. If that minimum bid isn't hit, then the feds will keep the items. It says the $1 million is just a fraction of the $8.7 million that Dame owes in back taxes, and then he owes another $193,000 in back child support. Dame also owes a $823,000 judgment to director Josh Weber, who also sued him back in 2019 for defamation and copyright infringement. So in effect, so my question is, so New York State, what are y'all going to do with this? But the truth of the matter is, the way that they bid and won, it's so random. Yes, girl, it is so random. The way that they bid and won, all they're going to receive is what's called the receivables. Basically, whatever accounting, whatever shares of royalties, whatever shares of masters or publishing that goes to Roc Nation, that would be his third. It's going to go to the state of New York and not him. So that's how that would work. The issue is, but also, even though they're only owed 8.7, hypothetically over the years, because now they owe that forever. Over the years, they could collect more than the actual 8.7 million that they're owed. It's just whatever they're going to get from the royalties and the money that comes through as his third. But also, many people are like, Rockefeller isn't anything anymore. Now there's Roc Nation, and that's true. So it's pretty much whatever they've owned before. Thanks, Francis Johnson, for becoming a new member. All right, next up, the last two cases. You know what? I'm going to end on the Botham Jean case because I want to make sure you guys get a chance to ask me questions, because that one there's a lot of aspects there. So we're going to do this Diddy case. Y'all, let me tell you something. Mr. Busby. I didn't say that he was his lawyer. I said he is a lawyer in the Diddy case. So Mr. Busby, Tony Busby, is a lawyer in Diddy cases. He represents approximately 120, according to him, 120 of victims against Diddy and counting. So when I tell you that Diddy's legal strategy / PR strategy is so comprehensive, I want to give you one example. For example, remember there was Thalia Graves is one of the victims who she was attacked by him and his security guard, allegedly. The security guard is Big Joe. Then Diddy had released some text messages between Thalia and her ex-boyfriend to imply that the victim, Thalia, was trying to pay off her ex-boyfriend in order to get him to corroborate her story. Now, Mims on Make It Make Sense, he did an expose showing the excerpts that seemed to make it look like she was offering him $3 million to corroborate her story were actually not what happened at all. That really what happened was he was already telling her, like, hey, I want to let you know this video existed of them assaulting you, blah, blah, blah. And that, this case exists. Basically, Diddy's team used PR, used TMZ, etc., to twist that narrative. Now, and then Diddy's legal team paid the security guard, Big Joe Sherman, Big Joe, to sue Thalia and Gloria Allred for defamation. So Diddy's lawyers paid the bodyguard's lawyer to sue the victim, to muddy up that water and make it look crazy. Now, it appears that Diddy's henchmen have now found a former employee of Tony Busby, employee of Tony Busby, and convinced her to file a lawsuit against him to what? Lessen his credibility. We're going to get into those facts, and then I want you to tell me what you are thinking, what you are believing, as far as that. That guy from Texas said one of Tony Busby's clients was exposed for lying. That is definitely happened before. All right. So specifically, the Neighborhood Talk says the circus continues as one of the lawyers coming after Diddy has found himself in his own trouble. Tony Busby, who's representing 120 alleged victims of Diddy, is being sued for assault. According to the lawsuit obtained by TMZ, a former divorce client says it all happened while Busby was still working on her case. A source says Busby saw the woman in public and lashed out, chipping her tooth after pushing a champagne flute into her face. So the woman claims she can prove it with her medical records and is currently listed as a Jane Doe. Now that's ironic because Tony Busby files all his lawsuits against Diddy as Jane Doe or John Doe, and that's been pissing off Diddy's legal team. In fact, they've gone to the courts to say that they want to force these people to no longer be anonymous. It says it says the woman claims that she can prove it with all her medical records and is currently listed as a Jane Doe. She even goes as far as saying Busby cost her millions after ruining her divorce case by alleged malpractice. That's crazy fiction, like really crazy, like ridiculously crazy. I would ask if the lawyer bringing this silly case is friends with the lawyer from the firm that brought the other extortion case against him. Remember, there's an extortion case that Diddy's legal team also recently filed. Oh, no. It wasn't Diddy. It was a gentleman who was at one of the Diddy parties brought against Busby. It says, all this will be exposed soon, Busby told TMZ. So just to lay this out here. So basically what's going on is Diddy's legal team and henchmen are paying people who accuse him are paying lawyers, are paying people to bring lawsuits against his accusers. So now we've got 2 against Busby. Busby's got the one where somebody from a freak off is accusing him of extortion. Now he's got another one from one of his own former clients that's claiming he chipped her tooth and assaulted her. And then the third one is we've got Thalia Graves, which is one of the victims, is being sued by the bodyguard, the same bodyguard that she is claiming assaulted her. And what's really clever here is he's not visibly doing the dirty work. Y'all, this is what corporate obstruction of justice looks like. By corporate, I mean he's using cash to wear people out. When you as an attorney are fighting cases against you for things like extortion, that now means your resources have to be split. your staff, your all of your staff, all of your budgets, they now have to be redirected for these frivolous lawsuits. It's not slick, but when the feds are talking about why he should not be granted bail tomorrow in the hearing, the umpteenth bail hearing, these are examples of obstruction and how he's effectively intimidating anyone who goes against him. Kenny is saying the A-list celebrity extortion case in this new case is getting muddy. Can y'all hit that like button? We are really low on likes. It says, I heard his henchmen are also confronting YouTube influencers and paying them not to talk. I don't know about influencers. That would make sense. I do know that it's alleged. Okay. So the other day I had covered how there were documents that were seized from Diddy's cell. And some of those documents the government referred to say how to explain how Diddy has, from his jail cell, continued to obstruct justice, y'all. From a very reliable inside source. One such document included Diddy having notes regarding the names of victims and addresses of victims. And victims have reported having surveillance outside of their house, like people watching their homes. I totally believe that. But here's the scary part. The judge just ruled that anything that was seized cannot be used in the bail hearing Friday to determine whether or not he should get bail. In other words, even though those notes, even if those notes contain Kalina's address and any of the victims' addresses that are in there, even though that's in there, the judge is saying he's not going to count it. It sucks, but that is the law. The law is if the judge determines that evidence was obtained in an unlawful way, no matter how good the evidence is, it has to be excluded. Now, here, I don't agree that the evidence was obtained in an unlawful way. And I think that the hearing should be more focused on determining whether or not the government used lawful means to obtain those documents. But if those documents have Kalina's address in there and any of the victims' addresses in there, game over. Why would Diddy need that? I can see his lawyers needing it. He wouldn't need that. For what? You going to send him a love note? Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. It says, have I seen the judge's new statement? Can he change his mind? He feels misled. He can change his mind. I think what will need to happen is in the hearing, which is supposed to be tomorrow, in that hearing, he needs to allow oral argument on the issue so that he feels like he has all the information. Was he at the party too? I'm not sure which one you're talking about. We've only got 100 likes, but we've got over 200 in the chat. So let's hit that like. He's going to send a note and not with love. Exactly. This is not a game. This is totally frightening. Absolutely. Totally frightening. All right. So that's the current status. I am going to be waiting with bells on to hear this judge's verdict tomorrow about bail. I am honestly very concerned that the judge is going to lean towards granting Diddy bail. The reason why is, number one, this is a new judge. This judge is an Indian guy. He is not the same as the two prior judges who denied bail. Secondly, I believe he may grant bail due to the fact that he is not allowing this government to rely on the documents that they're using to further support the obstruction of justice claims. And third, he specifically asked the government to explain why it was okay in the Abercrombie and Fitch guy's case for him to put up $10 million and then receive bail, but that is not okay in the Diddy case. That statement alone says to me that the judge is leaning towards the refusal to grant bail in this instance being unreasonable. Yep, if you're coming in the chat, don't forget to like, Diddy said the Cassie, yes, he said the Cassie video was altered. Okay. What was it? You didn't hit her or not? See, here's the problem with that stupid thing. And I'm so glad that you commented on that. I bet the alterations that he's referring to are like the timelines, that it was sped up, that it was slowed down. What, you want to show us how you whooped her tail slower? More agony over a longer period of time? Because you already apologized. And here's the thing. If it truly was altered, you would have said that during your apology. You would have said, this did not happen in this way. This is not accurate. You didn't ever say that. So you a damn lie today. And you're not even a good liar anymore. At this point, it sounds like he's just throwing everything in Charles. Throwing everything against the wall. And to make matters worse, when Diddy made that Cassie video where he's doing the apology, it's alleged that it's the same location as where Russell Simmons be at over there in Bali. And it's alleged that if Diddy is granted bail, he gonna take his little butt over there where Russell Simmons is, because Bali does not have extradition with the United States. I have not double checked to confirm that, but actually, let me see. Let's do it right now. Does Bali extradite to U.S.? Oh, no. Bali does not have an extradition treaty with the United States of America. However, there is precedent for Bali sending American fugitives back to the United States. Let me tell you when they're not going to do it. Bali's not going to send you back if you could buy the country. It's really easy to buy countries like that are that poor. If he's got $50 million for bail, how much do you think he's got to pay off some Belizean? I don't know what they call them people. No, that's Belize. It's Belizean. To pay off some Bali politicians. Oh, baby. It won't take much at all. Probably 100,000, a million maybe. Let's say it's 20 of them. That's 20 million. Oh, no. Kenny said he can go there with Putin. Diddler is trying to find a loophole. Yeah. I want to know in the chat. Put a 1 if you think, if Diddy is given bail, do you think he'll show up? 2, if you think, nope, he's gone. He's going to flee like a Project Roach when the light comes on. I think it's going to be like a roach. Gone Diddy. Diddy's not going to be there. He is gone. And let's not forget, January 21st or whenever, no, I think it's the 16th or whatever, that Trump will get inaugurated, whatever the hell day of terror that will be. Trump can pardon him even before trial. I did look that up. You can pardon someone before they're even charged. One of the prior presidents, the president that pardoned Nixon hadn't even been charged, hadn't been indicted. He pardoned him. He can pardon Diddy whenever he gets good and ready to. Now, again, people were talking about how Diddy was supporting Kamala and Diddy was supporting his opposition. But if he says enough nice things and gives them enough money, I mean, we're not talking about a genius here. Yeah. I think he's narcissistic. Oh, that's a good point. Des17 says, I think Diddy is narcissistic enough to think that he can win. I believe you. I mean, heck, it worked with the Shine case. Atasham said he did hand over his passport along with all the kids. Now, that's true. Now, he was going to. I don't know that he has, because since he's in the prison, I don't know that he has done that. But you can get fake ones made for sure. He probably going to have a tunnel built in that mansion in Miami. A tunnel to somewhere. Girl, you're going to be like Pablo Escobar. Tan says, I think Diddy wants to own the USA. I need the feds to add more witnesses to corroborate. Let me tell you, the federal investigation is so thorough. The way they are locating witnesses internationally, from my understanding, and I have boots on the ground inside intel. their legal team, their investigators are doing such an amazing job at finding, because these are old cases, at finding old witnesses that will corroborate these victims' stories in ways that are just, it's amazing. It is so telling. It is so telling. All right. So, no, we're not going to do this one today. Hold on. We're going to do the Botham Jean. Hold on. All right. We're going to go to the final story of the night. Did I do that? What is going on here? Hold on. Oh, the final one of the night is going to be the Botham Jean. Here we go. Story. Ooh. Here we go. All right. We're going to share this tab. All right, guys. So a federal jury in North Texas awards $98.65 million to Botham Jean's family that was killed by Dallas ex-cop Amber Geiger. And this was done in his honor. Oop, let me take this comment off the bottom of the screen. Now, everyone pretty much remembers this case as the unfortunate case of this young man minding his business in his own apartment complex, sitting there literally eating a bowl of ice cream when police officer Amber Geiger thought she was walking into her apartment, kicked the door open, and just started shooting. She didn't. She claims that she screamed, "Hands, hands," and he didn't show his hands, and so she shot, and took his life. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison in the state of Texas. That makes her eligible for parole after 5. We're past the 5-year mark now. So, and so far she has not been granted parole. So that's great. Hopefully she won't be. Hopefully she'll have to serve the 10. But the real question that people say is, okay, so who's going to pay this $100 million? And the answer is Amber. Only Amber. Not the city, not the police department, but Amber. In fact, the city won. So this $100 million verdict is really more so for the culture, for the family, for closure. And I want to make sure that you're clear on how and why the city was able to not be found liable. But I also want you to be clear on why it's super important that the attorneys didn't just stop and give up once it was found that the big money pockets, which were the city, weren't liable, that they continued to fight. And I want to contrast this to the Trayvon Martin case. So here, the main issue, that's the difficulty whenever you're suing police in scenarios like this, is that there's special immunity laws that under the federal government are applicable to municipalities. So specifically, I'm going to share this case with you. A Supreme Court case that was decided in 1978 called Monell liability. It keeps municipalities, meaning cities in many instances, from exposure in these kinds of excessive Fort civil rights lawsuits. So basically, in most cases, they cannot be held liable because it says what the Supreme Court has said is under the civil rights statute that this case was brought under, that a city is not responsible in the same way for officers' conduct. So Geiger was considered as acting as a police officer. Even though she was off duty, she was still considered as acting as a police officer when she fatally shot Jean in his own apartment. However, the city has no financial responsibility. And it was stated, quote, in any other scenario, if you're driving a truck for a company and you crash into somebody, you're negligent when you do that. You're acting within the scope of your job. And so your employer would be liable. However, this case before the Supreme Court has held in order to win against the city, you got to prove one thing. It is essential that it essentially requires that incidents like this that have happened, you have to show that they have happened multiple times in the past, that the city was aware that these incidents have happened and that they didn't do anything about it. In other words, it's called deliberate indifference. In other words, multiple people have to die first. Multiple have to die first. Think of like dog bites. How there are some states that say, oh, if the dog's never bit anybody before, dog's not considered vicious. That's kind of like how they're viewing the city. that you have to show deliberate indifference by the city. In other words, if the city knows these things happen, they've done nothing about it, they haven't tried to train, blah, blah, blah. It says for Jean's family and others, it's a high bar to cross, which is true, which is why more times than not, cities get dismissed. Yeah, they get dismissed from the lawsuit. So, in other words, here, they're not getting a dime from the city. There was no settlement with the city. The city filed what was called a motion for summary judgment, which is a motion that basically says, hey, Your Honor, if you look at the law and you look at the facts, we win. We don't even need to go to trial. The federal judge did just that and found that the city won. This was a year ago, dismissed them from the case. Now, however, one of the good things about suing Amber is two things. Number one, people have said, well, can't she just file for bankruptcy? Nope. She cannot. I'm going to see if I can put it on the screen. She can't simply file for bankruptcy because they granted what's called punitive damages. When punitive damages are granted, and those are granted, here you go. I have it here. Punitive damages are granted where they found that it was intentional, willful, that type of conduct. I'm going to put this on the screen. When that is found, then you cannot simply file bankruptcy to get rid of the debt. Let me go to that page so you can see it. Put it a little bigger. And this is the money that they decided to give him. So these are compensatory damages for his estate. $2 million, $5.5 million for the loss of his future earnings, $2.7 for the loss of his capacity to enjoy his life. The claims, what was interesting is there's the claims for his estate and then there's claims for his parents, which is correct. But then they also have punitive damages. Yes. And for punitive damages, they gave $60 million. So what that means is even if she were to file bankruptcy, it would either completely be denied or they'd say, all right, but you still got to pay the $60 million. So what that means is she can never own a home. Even if she gets with a man that has a home, it has to just be in his name because you can't get a house finance when you have this kind of debt on top of your house, on top of your head, because the debt would attach to the house. She could never write a book or a movie and keep a dime. That money all would need to go to his family to help them obtain justice. It says, so basically this blocks Amber from ever being able to have anything. Yes, which is why I think it's still very valuable. So when you hear people that say, what's the point in getting $100 million verdict against Amber when you weren't able to get a dime from the city, it's because we still want to make her life hell. We do. Because let's think about it. I want to contrast it to George Zimmerman, who murdered Trayvon Martin. He was never sued. They let the statute of limitations lapse against him. He was never sued. He then took the pow pow weapon, put it on eBay for $1 million, was the opening bid. He wanted to sell it for $1 million. And eBay was going to allow the auction, except people got so wild and upset on social media that eBay pulled it. So effectively, George Zimmerman can become a millionaire from his conduct because of the fact that he was never sued in the way that Amber Geiger was here. I know. I'm so shocked that he's still free. Yeah, we need to make her miserable. When she gets out, I want her to work at Wendy's, and every when you go to that Wendy's and you see it's her, you say, I'm not supporting this Wendy's no more. We're gonna put it on social media. Amber's up here at the Wendy's, y'all. Get rid of her. Amber, you got to go. I might let her work at Dollar Tree because nobody at Dollar Tree, they don't really have teeth. And I think they're short. They're having difficulty finding good staff there. She might could work at Dollar Tree. That'd be about it. Or Family Dollar. At Family Dollar, they could fight. This lady checked me out the other day at Family Dollar. She had 2 teeth. There was one here and there was one there. And there was a smattering on the bottom. There was something down there. And I know she'd been through some things. So I'm just saying, I just don't want her life to be comfortable. That's my point. I want you to work a job where it clearly doesn't come with benefits or health care. And you may or may not, have to suffer gingivitis and other lifelong ailments on your own because of your decisions on that day. All right, guys. With that note, thanks for joining your legal bestie. I will be back later in the week with more, and let me know down below what other cases and crimes you want me to cover. Attorney Simone with Girl, Is That Legal?